Tonight, a massive, deadly winter storm sweeps across the country, bringing more than a foot of snow, ice, and frigid temperatures.
One of the most important pillars of our democracy is that there will be a peaceful transfer of power.
Vice President Harris certifies the results of the 2024 election, a vastly different scene than 4 years ago.
Here we are 2 years later, a lot of uncertainty. How has it been?
It's been extremely difficult.
And tonight's Eye on America. We go to Alaska as fishermen struggle, how it could affect you and the seafood you eat.
More of what you will be eating will be less regulated.
The CBS Evening News starts now. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for joining us as tens of millions of Americans dig out from the first major winter storm of the new year. Indiana, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New Jersey are among nearly a dozen states that have been buried in snow and ice since Sunday. In the hardest hit areas, it's up to 1.5 feet deep. That means dangerous conditions on the roads along a stretch of more than 1,000 miles from the Central Plains all the way to the Northeast. At least 5 people have been killed in crashes in Kansas and Missouri. Thousands of flights have been impacted, and hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses have lost power. We have a team of reporters covering the widespread impacts, beginning with CBS News meteorologist Rob Marciano, who's on the National Mall in an area better known for cherry blossoms, but looks different tonight. Good evening, Rob.
Good evening, Nora. Yeah, no pink blossoms here tonight in January. Nothing but white. D.C. getting slammed with the worst snowstorm they've seen in at least 5 years. Nearly 8 inches of snow falling, and it's still coming down. Parts of Kansas seeing 20 inches of snow. In the past 3 days, this storm has made a ferocious trek across the country.
Over 1/2 foot of winter white quickly piling up in the nation's capital. A city that averages just over 18 inches of snow a year. So its relatively small fleet of plows is struggling to keep the roads clear. Work crews using smaller scale tactics to move the snow, power sweepers and leaf blowers on sidewalks. And lots of hand shovelers like T. McKeevy, one of many workers hired to help for the day.
It's kind of tough. I wish I had a snow blower.
Allison Gitlin is a federal employee using her snow day as a rare DC ski day. Even the giant pandas at the National Zoo are getting in on the fun. This is the same system that buried parts of the Midwest over the weekend, hitting Kansas City, Missouri with its biggest blizzard in 3 decades. And the storm is still making a mess on the highways, stranding drivers and stalling tractor trailers.
I'm Manuel Bajorca is traveling north along I-65 in Kentucky, where conditions go from bad to worse the closer you get to Louisville. Along the outskirts of the city, we drove past emergency crews on the scene of a car that slid off the road and ended up on its side. The icy conditions captured by one person who rolled down their car window only to reveal a sheet of ice. The concern is a thick enough coating could bring down branches, leading to power outages. Louisville saw the most snow on a single day in 25 years Sunday, with 9 inches. More fell today as people tried to dig out.
I'm Chris Van Cleve at Chicago O'Hare Airport. Crews here are dealing with freezing rain and frigid temperatures. That is causing delays across the board here, in part because every single airplane has to be de-iced. In other parts of the Midwest, all the way out to the Northeast, airports are being impacted from this storm. In many places, it's digging out from or being hammered by snow. That means thousands of delays and cancellations today alone. And this is going to be a challenging week as another storm is set to move through. Rob?
We do have another one coming. An update from Reagan National. They are shutting down the runways there tonight to clear the snow so that they don't have things refreeze on the airfield in the morning, because that's what's going to happen. And we'll see temperatures dropping tonight. Take a look at some of these numbers across really the eastern 2/3 of the country. It's going to feel like 13 degrees in Louisville. It can feel like -5 in Kansas City. And this will settle down into the south come Wednesday and Thursday, which is bad news with the next system that's coming into Texas on Thursday. Dallas may get a little bit of snow with this. Little Rock back into Nashville, Louisville, more snow heading towards Ohio on Friday. Then where it goes from there, we're not quite sure yet, but one thing is for sure, tens of millions of Americans are going to feel problems with this yet again. Nora?
That is quite a forecast. The only people celebrating, those kids who've got school canceled again for tomorrow. Rob Marciano, thank you so much. And the snow here in Washington did not stop one of the most important parts of a presidential election, the certification of results. On the left is what it looked like 4 years ago, riddled with chaos and violence. On the right is how it unfolded today, with order and civility, as Vice President Kamala Harris oversaw the count of electoral votes in an election she lost. We get more now from CBS's Scott McFarlane.
With a driving snowstorm outside, this time it was a serene January 6th inside. In one of her final acts as vice president,
Democracy must be upheld by the people.
Kamala Harris presided as Congress certified the victory of her opponent in the 2024 presidential election.
Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes.
In a ceremonial proceeding that lasted barely 30 minutes. A stark contrast to the chaos and catastrophe of January 6, 2021, in which more than 140 police officers were injured, maimed, gassed, and beaten by marauding rioters.
Today was obviously a very important day, and it was about what should be the norm.
Democrat Joe Morelli of New York helped administer today's certification.
Were you thinking back to 4 years ago?
Yeah, it's hard not to think back to what happened. I mean, that was a day that no one should forget, and certainly no one should try to change what happened.
Washington, D.C. police officer Daniel Hodges, beaten in a doorway by the mob, attended today and accused Republicans of trying to ignore or whitewash the insurrection.
It would be my honor to make it as uncomfortable as possible for the GOP members who try to whitewash that day and lie about what happened and pretend that we didn't save them.
4 years later, nearly 1,600 people have been charged with felony or misdemeanor crimes for their alleged roles in the attack. And though some Trump allies have claimed the rioters were unarmed, a CBS News review found guns, tasers, chemical spray, bats, and dozens of other weapons were brandished.
They should immediately be released, immediately, the J6 hostages.
President-elect Trump has pledged at least some pardons as early as Inauguration Day.
I think it'd be offensive to everyone who risked their lives, who fought and sacrificed their blood and sweat that day to preserve democracy.
A CBS News investigation finds nearly 160 of the Capitol riot defendants sentenced so far had criminal pasts, including for violent crimes, amid warnings from Trump's critics that pardons could embolden future crimes. Nora?
Scott McFarlane with that news from the Hill today. Thank you, Scott. President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden are in New Orleans tonight, meeting with the families of those killed in the New Year's Day attack on Bourbon Street. The visit comes as we learn chilling new details about the planning of the attack. Here's CBS's Omar Villafranca.
President Biden arrived in New Orleans this afternoon to grieve with the families who lost loved ones on New Year's, as more haunting details emerged about the attacker. The FBI released this video over the weekend. It was recorded by Shamsuddin Jabbar as he rode a bicycle through the French Quarter last October, the same area where he carried out his deadly rampage. Jabbar recorded the video using meta glasses like these. They look like regular glasses, but they have a small built-in camera right here to take pictures, record video, or live stream. Today, the normally bustling Bourbon Street was packed with construction crews, along with Louisiana's governor and other officials. New Orleans plans to replace the street's physical barriers, known as bollards, in time for next month's Super Bowl, much-needed upgrades that apparently had not been addressed for several years. A 2017 report identified Bourbon Street as a potential terrorism target, and the city installed bollards. But a confidential report showed that city officials were warned in 2019 that the bollards needed to be fixed and improved immediately. Now, after years of delays, there are concerns that the new bollards being installed may only withstand crashes of up to 10 miles per hour.
The thorough assessment that I'm asking for will determine if, in fact, they're strong enough.
Today, funeral services were held in Lafayette, Louisiana for 27-year-old Tiger Besh, one of the 14 people killed. Besh was a former All-Ivy Princeton football player who became a junior bond trader. Jack Besh is his brother.
And now each day on will be the hardest day of my life, just living there knowing I can't speak to him ever again.
Behind me, construction crews removed 2 bollards from Bourbon Street. The plan is to beef up security in the French Quarter in time for next month's Super Bowl and for the Mardi Gras season which starts today. Nora?
Important to get that done. All right, Omar Villafranca, thank you so much. For the first time, bird flu has claimed a human life in the U.S. Louisiana's health department says the patient was over the age of 65 and had underlying health problems and contracted the virus from exposure to a backyard flock of birds. The CDC says the health risk to the general public is low. There's major news tonight concerning America's neighbor to the north. Justin Trudeau announced today that he's stepping down as leader of Canada's governing party after serving nearly a decade as prime minister. CBS's Elizabeth Palmer now on what led to Trudeau's downfall.
With his popularity plunging, no one was surprised by the announcement.
I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister.
In 2015, aged only 43, Justin Trudeau swept to power, the second youngest prime minister in Canadian history, with a telegenic family and a liberal mission.
We stand for a woman's right to choose. We stand for the right to be who you are and love whom you love.
At first, he was a breath of fresh air.
Boom!
With his easy charm, he headed a liberal government through good times and bad, including the pandemic. He was invited to the White House by successive presidents on a mission to keep relations with Canada's largest trading partner, Sweet. But in the last couple of years, things soured for him. He's separated from his wife and faced public anger about inflation and a housing crisis. Then President-elect Trump, who in his first term had welcomed Trudeau, threatened tariffs that would cripple the Canadian economy and insultingly called him the governor of America's 51st state. Today, Justin Trudeau chose to walk away from that fight and the job of leading a troubled country. For CBS News, I'm Elizabeth Palmer.
If you're driving into Manhattan, be ready to pay up. A controversial new congestion pricing plan is in effect. Why other major cities are paying attention. That's next. Driving just got more expensive for many New York City commuters. Congestion pricing was put to its first rush hour test today. Supporters argue the plan cuts down on gridlock and greenhouse gas emissions, but critics are fuming about paying another toll. CBS's Elijah Westbrook reports tonight.
How are you feeling this morning?
It's horrible. I'm not sure about it.
New York City's first in the nation congestion pricing plan is taking effect. Millions of people commuting in and out of Manhattan's so-called central business district are now paying at least $9 to enter the zone.
Zahara, how long does it typically take you to get from here in Bayonne, New Jersey, all the way out to Bed-Stuy?
Typically, on an average morning, takes about an hour and 15 minutes.
And that's on a good day for Zahara Duncan, an elementary school counselor who works in Brooklyn, who lives in Bayonne, New Jersey.
I'm always trying to leave work early.
But commuting isn't a laughing matter. Duncan has physical limitations that make public transportation difficult. The daily $9 toll will be a financial burden. It adds up to $45 a week on top of other transportation tolls. For such a fast-paced city, getting around New York can feel surprisingly slow.
Buses are slower than walking in much of Midtown. We want to see if that can be improved.
In 2003, London implemented a similar traffic plan. Initially, the plan had some success, with traffic down 18% in the zone and congestion pricing reduced 30%. But with the increase in ride-sharing services and trucks delivering online orders, traffic has crept back in. Now, the new tolling program is already facing some serious roadblocks. Nearby states have already filed lawsuits, and President Trump is threatening to scrap the program altogether once he's in office. Nora?
Elijah Westbrook, thank you so much. Eye on America is next with a comeback story. What's behind the recovery of a popular seafood delicacy?
If you can't watch the CBS Evening News, you can listen. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
About 60% of the seafood Americans consume comes from the waters of Alaska. Among the most popular and threatened species, the snow crab. Now, after a 2-year pause, fishermen are catching the crabs again. And as CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti explains, the solution to the problem could help other species rebound as well.
In some parts of the Alaskan wilderness, the seafood is so abundant you can grab it with your claws. Clear! But for commercial fishermen like Gabriel Prout, based on Kodiak Island, the water's looking murky these days.
You know, this is the wheelhouse. So a lot goes on up here. You know, you have fights, you have arguments, you have prayers.
Those prayers are for a rebound of Alaska's snow crab population.
Where have the snow crab gone?
When we first met Prout in 2022, the Alaskan Department of Fish and Game had just imposed an indefinite pause on the snow crab season. 10 billion snow crabs, 90% of the species, had mysteriously vanished.
Here we are 2 years later, a lot of uncertainty. How has it been?
It's been extremely difficult. There's not a lot you can do. These boats are specifically designed to go out and catch crab. So we're over $4 million in debt.
4 million.
Correct. On a good day, you'd have at least 200 crab in here.
Biologists blame the rapid decline of snow crab on a 2018 climate-fueled heat wave.
This is actually kind of a small one.
Now, 6 years on, Ben Daly with the Alaska Department of Fish and Game is developing tracking devices to monitor snow crab and identify healthy populations for sustainable harvesting.
It helps us understand their movement patterns in response to environmental change.
Climate change isn't going away anytime soon. How does a population that depends on colder water then come back from that when the water will likely continue to warm?
The warming event during 2018 and 2019 was kind of thought of as a lightning strike, and the concern moving forward is that the predictions are suggesting higher frequency of lightning strikes in the future.
Other Alaskan species have also been impacted, including Pacific cod, king salmon, and pollock. According to NOAA, between 2022 and 2023, Alaska's seafood industry suffered a nearly $2 billion loss. That industry extends to fish markets and dinner tables thousands of miles from here. Prices of Alaskan seafood in some places have shot up nearly 60% in just a few years.
The volume is definitely lower than it once was, and that is affecting availability, obviously, and that affecting sales.
Kenny Belov owns a seafood company and restaurant in the Bay Area.
What the customer has to be aware of, more of what you will be eating will be imported. More of what you will be eating will be less regulated. More of what you will be eating will be caught with destructive fishing gear.
Back in Kodiak, commercial pots have returned to the water this season after officials lifted that 2-year ban. The moratorium helped populations, but the quota will only be about a tenth of what it was 3 seasons ago.
Has there been any discussion about Plan B?
It's hard to even consider a Plan B when fishing is in my blood. I'm a 3rd-generation fisherman.
For now, it's a modest lifeline for fishermen who find themselves drifting deeper into the unknown. For Eye on America, I'm Jonathan Vigliotti, Kodiak, Alaska.
And we'll be right back with a big moment from the Golden Globe Awards.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Save when you bundle auto, home, or motorcycle insurance.
It was a golden night for Demi Moore at the Golden Globe Awards. Moore scored her first major acting award for her performance in The Substance.
30 years ago, I had a producer tell me that I was a popcorn actress. And at that time, I made that mean that this wasn't something that I was allowed to have. And so today, I celebrate this as a marker of my wholeness and of the love that is driving me, and for the gift of doing something I love and being reminded that I do belong. Thank you so much.
The whole speech was really exceptional, and this part struck out to me. A woman told her, "Just know you will never be enough, but you can know the value of your worth if you just put down the measuring stick." All right, let's put down the measuring stick. That's tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Nora O'Donnell. Good night.